Hello, everybody. How's it going? And welcome to this episode 2 of season 4 spoiler review for Succession on the Outlaw Nation. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by my fellow disgusting brother over there, Shannon McClung. How are you, Shannon?
Well, Johnny, as we were talking before you started to record,
Yes.
yeah, today is actually my birthday.
Happy birthday! Woo!
Yesterday ended up being a rather prolonged celebration where I may have had 3 or 4 too many espresso martinis. So I didn't really sleep last night.
Fair enough.
So I woke up 45 years old, and I also woke up a Scottish lord.
What? What? You're
My
a lord
wife-
now?
I am, hold on, I can tell you, I am a Lord of Glencoe and Kilnaish. Nice. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's
Okay.
Kilnaish, but my wife, Shani, for my birthday, purchased me a lordship.
Wow.
So I own apparently 11 square feet of land on a farm in Scotland. But I have a certificate that says I'm a lord.
You're
and apparently...
Wait, you're the lord of how much square acre of land?
11 square feet.
11 square feet. So you can dictate what goes on. Is it a shanty? What do they call that? That kind of land? What's it called in England? Do they have a name for it?
It's not a lot. it's very tiny. But yes, I am the lord of that 11 square foot plot of land.
Wow.
And
yes.
We found out that on my like passport now, instead of being Mr. Shannon Michael McClung, I can be Lord Shannon Michael McClung.
What? Wow. That is incredible. Well, I gotta say that calls for a change then, clearly, because if we're gonna keep doing these reviews, we have to address you correctly. Lord Shannon McClung. There you go. Right there in the graphics, Lord Shannon McClung joining us to have deigning to join us to have this discussion of Succession, episode 2, season 4, rehearsal. And certainly there are a lot of people throwing around titles in this episode. Shannon, this was just a humdinger of an episode, if I can use that old school term. A lot going on here. Certainly we're seeing the sale about to happen to Matsson of Waystar, going over there to be bought up by Matsson. But also the kids now, or to lack of a better term, they're all adults, but the kids now angling after their purchase of PGN here, of Pierce's network there. And now trying to see if maybe because of Stewie and
Sandy. Stewie and Sandy.
Stewie and Sandy, yeah, they want to get the possibility of pushing Logan to go back to Matsson to raise the price so they can get even more money to help them transition in this situation. Then we have Kerry trying to be an anchor. We've got Connor dealing with Willa, leaving him possibly at the altar or at the rehearsal dinner altar. So all of that and the possible betrayal of the kids by Roman. So a lot happened in this episode. What did you think about this episode overall, brother, coming in this at this time in the story of the Roys?
Again, just a really, really solid episode. Carrie threatening Greg to pull Greg apart like a human piece of string cheese. Watching it was just delightful. Like, as you have mentioned in the past, you're not really on anyone's side because most folks on the show are pretty unlikable. But it's just such a fun show. And again, it's anchored by these just terrific performances. I mean, we get to see a shade of Logan that we've not seen, that it looks like his kids have never seen.
Right.
Watching how the kids are working together, but they're also looking out for their own self-interests at the same time. You see Kendall's having conversations with Matsson.
Yeah.
Shiv's having conversations with Sandy. I mean, all this angling, like they can't trust each other. And then they find out that Roman has been talking to Logan. It's just such a... Knowing that this is going to be the last season, it's like I want to savor every moment with the Roy family because it is just so much fun.
Let's start with something playful, and then we'll get into the meat, because I don't like to jump into the meat quite a lot. So right off the bat. So let's deal with Tom and Greg and Kerry. This and Logan to an extension. This is so interesting. Logan goes into the newsroom. I love the line from Greg saying, like, this is like if this is like Jaws if everybody worked for Jaws. That's maybe one of the greatest lines yet in Succession. And he had a great one last week talking about the rummaging down there. But him, seeing Logan wander around and kind of looking and make the comments, and Greg set up the speech with Sid there as well. The back and forth between those two that's still unresolved. Greg just really still walking on eggshells and minefields, so trying to retain the connection with Logan. Logan, we find out, helped him with his divorce by telling him to call all the lawyers here, so causing more friction between him and Shiv. And then we see this idea that he wants to put Kerry up for a possible anchor spot. Sid, who of course she wants to keep all her houses and her kids and her mortgages and her cars. She's like, oh, sure, yeah, she's got potential, sure, whatever, But we see this powerful men all the time thrust the women they're sleeping with onto the people they work with to try to put them in certain positions and try to put them in certain areas so they, can have some kind of a ear to the ground type thing. And then we watch these clips of her. And by the way, fantastic job by Zoe Winters, who plays Kerry. I mean, it's not an easy role to slide in and become essentially Logan's next girl or next woman or whatever, but her stumbling around and doing the news in the way that she does, the rubbery arms, all of this, it's like Meryl Streep and Florence Foster Jenkins. It's tough to sing off key when you want to sing off key, when you can actually sing. She's a good actress, so it's tough to her to play a bad anchor as she's playing a good actress. So it's as a good actress rather. So I think she does a wonderful job here. And then Logan is the one that tells Tom that he's got to let her go, or he's got to move her down, because Tom finally finds his nuts to at least tell someone of the truth. And Logan knows it too, which is why he guides Tom to the truth, but then tells Tom, I don't want anything to do with it. And then Tom, of course, because shit rolls downhill, gives it to Greg. And as you said, we have this incredible exchange, because Kerry gets the shot in, and Greg, having manhandled every woman in Brooklyn already, and they have a back and forth. And then she says, yeah, and he lies about the focus group. He lies about all this stuff. And she says, yeah, I'll take you apart like string cheese. But we see this affect her later in the karaoke scene. She's not as warm to Logan. And we see, oh, God, Fisher Stevens laughing. Yeah, Hugo laughing at watching these. So what did you think of this whole like mini storyline dancing underneath throughout this episode?
This is kind of a perfect comic runner, that you have this, not even really a B story. Like this is just something that pops up.
Yeah.
But you watch how everyone is enjoying this. You see Hugo and Jerry, Hugo more than Jerry, just cracking up. Yeah. We see the kids watching it. Right. And then just that great moment when Logan's like, what were you laughing at? What were you laughing at to Hugo? And he finally opens it up. It's just so well done. And, when Kerry came onto the scene last season, we don't know a lot about her. We just know that she is Logan's assistant, that he is more than likely sleeping with. But now you see she has her plan too. Like she wants to use Logan to become an anchor on a cable news network. And then to discover that this person who seems pretty capable, she's actually terrible at doing the news. I mean, the whole thing about the smile and she doesn't know what to do with her arms. Like the it's just arms. Yeah. So funny. And then again, the really interesting thing that Matthew Macfadyen is doing with Tom is how vulnerable he is. Like how he is tight with Greg. I mean, he's not, he teases him about the sex tape, but other than that, Greg calls, he says, hey, buddy. Yeah. But he can still kind of pass off this responsibility of nipping Kerry's dream bud on Greg, and just watching Nicholas Braun. Yeah. He's such a funny performer. And you called this earlier that Greg really is none of them are good people.
No,
I always had a soft spot for Cousin Greg, but like watching Logan on the floor of ATN telling, the engineers and everything, you're pirates, you're pirates. You see this malevolent glee in Greg's face. And it's like, oh, okay. And then he gets to go in, and this person who is constantly smacking him down, he gets to essentially fire her.
Yeah.
Like, and watching how he sort of clumsily does it, but he does ultimately win. I mean, it's just so, it's very Cousin Greg to inadvertently come out on top. Yeah. But just the whole runner of everyone kind of being in on this joke that Kerry is terrible at this thing that she wants to do. It was just so much fun. And then in the wake of that karaoke scene, watching how the kids to her face are kind of like, yeah, you're not good at this. Yeah. And her reaction,
taking your betrayal cherry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Watching her with Logan, like when she realizes like, oh, the thing that I've been trying to get, I was played. Yeah. I'm not going to get it. So it was just such a fun comic runner throughout, something great to like, sort of a release valve for the other things that are happening throughout the show.
Yeah, I agree. But also what I think is coming through very clearly, and I am kind of a bit of an idiot to have not caught it initially, is that like everybody who comes into Logan Roy's sphere, and look, Brian Cox does a great job in those post episode mini docs. They do those 5-minute mini docs. Explaining Logan Roy and the mystery of Logan Roy and giving him all these levels, and he's tough with emotion, or it's hard for him. All bullshit, to be honest with you. It's not, you have to love the character to play it, right? But in my opinion, it's bullshit. He is such a morally and emotionally corrupt person that everybody who comes into his sphere has to adapt to that way of thinking and being in order to exist in it, to curry favor with him. But like the kids say, they've learned over decades of being his children that he uses that to get what he wants out of you and then shatters you on the rocks. And so we see that Tom, every time he interacts with Logan, is walking into a minefield. Sid, even, who has been it can be quite a, how can I say, a knife-tongued person in the interactions with Tom. When she's around Logan, she's like, oh yeah, whatever you want. Oh no, boss, I would never. All these kinds of things, because everybody has something to lose, because he has created a situation where everybody needs something from him, even though he bitches that they all need something from him, but he likes that power. And Kerry is the latest. Kerry giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's like giving her this position. He's moved her up. She's gotten this position where she's probably having sex with him. We have not seen anything like that, but it's implicated. Or implied rather. And so you see all of this, and then she, in that moment, realizing that she got played, is yet another example of this. And I see him doing, we're going to get to it, but I see that he does this with Roman at the end of the episode as well. He will play on your feelings for him. Whatever he needs to do to get what he wants, he will do, and he has no problem doing it, even though he may protest about it. He does it, and that's what's fascinating about the world of Logan Roy. I tweeted this out. I said, Succession is a great lesson to remind people that when you work for successful people, do a very good job of not relying on their approval of you to equate to your self-esteem, because they will shatter you to pieces if you're not careful. And certainly we've seen that. Everybody around Logan has an incredible amount of insecurity. And when the kids push back, which we'll get to here, it's incredible to see this. But yeah, let's move on to that. The kids and Matsson here. This is a really interesting moment, or a really interesting storyline going on right at the beginning. They're watching PGN, just deciding what they want to do with it, what they're going to do with this network, where they're going to go with it, all these things, and making fun of all the anchors, making fun of the old programming stuff. And then they move on to the situation where you sense that Shiv is talking to Sandy, and then Shiv has the conversation. So she's got different ideas. She's got a different approach. She thinks they should push the deal. Roman and Kendall don't want to go along with this. They go to Connor's thing. We see the helicopter thing. Their dad fucking him over one more time. They end up at the rehearsal dinner. Willa is gone, or they see Willa and talk to her. You can tell she's really unsettled by everything. Connor is there. Connor has the back and forth with him, and Shiv is trying to push Connor aside so that they can have this conversation about Matsson. And then Matsson calls Kendall after they go to that bar and they have the interaction on the subway. And as soon as he was done on the phone, I said to myself, I was like, Kendall, you go get this motherfucker for all you can. You go get it. And sure enough, he goes back in, and now he's on Shiv's side, and Roman is the odd one out. And this leads to culminates them going to the karaoke bar and having and of course, Connor is going to sing Leonard Cohen. Of course, he's going to sing Leonard Cohen. Who the fuck sings Leonard Cohen at a karaoke bar to depress everybody? And then we get the call that Logan wants to come, and Logan shows up at the karaoke bar, and we have what I think, Shannon, is one of the greatest scenes of the series. Period. Not the season, not the episode, of the series. In the back and forth here, and they're for once not letting their father off the hook. For once, they're calling him out on all this shit. And Logan is trying, and Kerry, with the prodding of Kerry, Logan is trying to give up a little bit of emotion, a little bit of ground, apologize. But of course, the whole reason he's doing it is so that they can vote for him in the board and help to go with the sale. And then when they don't 100% commit to him, he calls them idiots and not serious people. So he reverts back to what he does best, which is to destroy everything. And of course, it leads to that interaction with Roman later on, which we'll touch as a second thing. But what do you think about this whole storyline running through here? The switching of allegiances, finding out that Roman's been talking to Logan, and then that scene in the karaoke bar.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Like starting with season 1, Roman was the one who was kind of the most despicable. Like they were all despicable, but Roman was kind of the most despicable. And now you see he might be the best kid. Like, even though
it's crazy to me,
he is like not a good guy, but you see like what his intention with like trying to do their own thing. He actually wants to do something pure. Like he's like, let's make our own thing. Whereas Kendall and Shiv is like, you're just trying to screw dad. Like, you know, this is not going to succeed because your intention is, it's not pure. Like you don't care about the success of what we're trying to build. It's all to get back at the old man. And that is like, you know, we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Right.
And so even though like Roman does reach out to his dad, I mean, and I think it is because he ultimately is a good kid that is like, yes, we're in a bad situation right now. I'm going to tell my father happy birthday.
Yeah.
But also maybe he's hedging his bets a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like the thing that we're trying to do, we keep pivoting. It could fall apart. Maybe the stronger play is to go with my dad. Yeah. So it's just a fascinating, you know, they just have a fascinating dynamic. I mean, they're always at each other's throats.
Yeah.
But what I've loved about this season so far, and granted we're only 2 episodes in, I like that I like them getting along. I like them working together, because it's actually, you could see if everyone was on the same page, they could be a force to contend with. But then you get to that karaoke scene, and I agree, Johnny, like that is such an incredible piece of ensemble acting.
Yeah. That,
you know, all the credit to the performers, but also to the writers and to the director, Becky Miller, I think. Just really shot
Becky Martin.
Yeah. Just shot the scene really, really well. And you see this vulnerability that Logan is putting out there, which is something he does not do. And you see the kids, you know, especially Shiv and Kendall, probably more Shiv, because she's dealing with the whole Tom thing with the divorce, like, you know, conflicting out all the lawyers. You see them just go after Logan, and there's nothing he can do. Like, they kind of have him in this particular moment. Right. They have him over a barrel. And you can see they are.
Says in the conference room, he says to Kerry, like, they've got some leverage here. I've got to figure out how to get back some of this leverage. So that's the motivation when he goes. It's not because he cares about his kids necessarily, though he does. It's also about the deal, which makes it kind of nefarious what he's doing.
Yeah. But I mean, you hear Kendall and Shiv really laying out the things that he's done. He's just like, you ignored Connor his whole life. You got his mom locked up. You know, you did this. Like, when he says sorry, and they're like, what are you sorry for? Yeah. Like, be specific.
Roman says that, like, be specific.
Yeah. what are you sorry for? I mean, just just so well done. And Alan Ruck, he's always sort of like the forgotten Roy child. Really does some great work in this episode. You see when the Three Musketeers get to the rehearsal dinner late, clearly something has just happened with Willa, and you see Connor is straddling that line between sober and drunk, but also dealing with this emotional haymaker that he was given during his rehearsal dinner. And they just want to push him aside, especially Shiv. Like, we need to have a conversation. Poor Connor's just like, guys, can we just, it's, I don't know if this is going to happen. Like, let's just hang out together. But then you see he's the one who reaches out to Logan. So even everyone's backstabbing, everyone's double crossing, and it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy because Roman calls out Kendall and Shiv saying, well, I'm the only pure one here because you guys are going after it to get it back at Dad, but he still wants his father's approval. And so does Connor, because Connor, with his presidential aspirations, he is concerned about the deal getting fucked over because he might lose out on a lot of money. And I don't know why they told him about the whole, I know, I get it, family and all of that, but sometimes they're how can I say this? They're convenient moments of wanting to be family are not necessarily the smartest moments to want to be family. And of course, that's family. So it has that kind of vibe to it. You're like, why are you telling him? But that helps the conflict to be driven in the story. And it's believable because certainly that happens in families where you surrender some information to a member of the family that you probably shouldn't have surrendered. Then that person goes and so all of this, the moving around, but see, that's seen in the karaoke bar. I mean, I don't know how many of you all have issues with your family or your parents or whatever, but like being able to finally tell them everything. And that's them. They were like just fucking emotional, releasing everything. Kendall, I mean, you could tell in that one look between Jeremy Strong and Brian Cox when Kendall looks at him and goes, how many sorries is $100 million worth? How many sorries are we going to get? And there's this one moment where there's a pause and they're looking at each other. And I thought Kendall was going to say, about the kid who died, about all these things you put me through. Like, I thought he was going to lay out the groundwork. Shiv does it. Shiv says all these things. Says, what are you apologizing for? The helicopter? That was today, by the way. These things of like, what are you apologizing for? Screwing over with Tom? All the shit I went through, growing up in this family. And then all the stuff did Connor. And then Roman even chiming in like our mom in Italy, what you did there. So there was so much that they could just have been unloaded on him. And I think if Logan had been in an honest place to receive all of that, and that's the tragedy of this, and change everything, he would have taken it all in, legitimately apologized, and followed their lead on the deal. But instead, he reverts back to the destroy scorched earth Logan Roy that he is with this family, and that pushes everyone back. And I think what you said earlier is so smart, Shannon. The guy I hated the most was Roman Roy, and I said this in my tweet. In the middle of the second season, everybody's terrible, but they should throw Roman Roy off a bridge. Now I am so sympathetic to Roman because he actually wants them to be a family, the three of them. He wants to care, but he's still beholden to his father, and he's more like his father than he thinks. And at the end there, when they're having this conversation, I want to get your thoughts on this because we'll go back to the Connor speech as well, which I think is great. But the conversation between him and Logan at the end there, after Tom leaves the room, and Logan is telling Roman, I want you to come back. I want you to be Etienne. I want you to be the fire breather that you were before. So the Roman that we've seen in the first 2.5 seasons before he sent the dick pic, that's what he wants Roman to go back to. That vitriolic, evil, sociopathic, selfish narcissist, as opposed to this kid who desperately wants to be part of a family, wants them to be a family and caring and loving of each other. That kid finally realized, he matured, he grew up and realized, like, I do want this and I want to create this, but here's my father, because Logan must get what he wants, corrupting me yet again to turn me back into this thing that I've moved past. And that can also happen with family and also happen with any relationship, really. If someone wants you to go back to a place you were before for their own purposes, and they don't care how that fucks you up emotionally. So just a really interesting ending there. What did you think about that with Roman showing up at Logan's place to have that conversation?
I mean, throughout the series, Logan has always looked for, I guess you would say, the weak one.
Yeah.
And
in the
not that
which one of them is weak in the situation, right? Yeah.
Yep. And the things that Logan has done to Kendall and Shiv, I think he knows he's burnt. Those bridges are burned.
Right.
Especially that last move he did with the lawyers, with the divorce.
Yes.
Even though that great moment where he did say, like, had you been around, I would have given you the same advice.
Which is horseshit, by the way. But yeah.
Oh, 100%. But we've always seen, like, Logan, he tries to make the most out of he can make the most out of a small emotional misstep.
Yeah.
And Roman writing happy birthday to him, that was his opening.
That was the Dory.
That was 100% the opening, because anytime Logan gives you something, well, he always promises he's about to give you something, and then it never happens. We've seen it happen with Kendall. We've seen it happen with Shiv. We've seen it happen with Roman. Roman, he's just able to do it more than once too.
Right. And now we see that with Kerry in this episode too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, Kieran Culkin and Brian Cox together, they just have great chemistry. But yeah, I mean, you can see that Roman will operate not in his own best interest because he wants that family.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Connor Roy speech? I mean, I thought this was such a low-key, incredible moment for that character and for Alan Ruck as an actor, to say to them all, like, you guys are so desperate to daddy love me, daddy I hate you, but all these things. You guys are love sponges. And he goes, my superpower is I never needed love. I grew up on the rocks and the stalks and the instincts and the insects that I ate within me and nourished me. That's what I lived off, because I understood that I was going to be the forgotten child or the pushed aside child. That was my thing. And you all were complicit in it as well. It wasn't just Logan. And I've learned to do that. And in a way, you're just like, man, I mean, wow, wouldn't that be an incredible superpower to not need anyone's love or approval? Yeah, he's desperate for money because he wants to be president. But like, it's the Willa situation. And when he comes home and Willa is there in the bed, it's just so fantastic, man. What do you think about this whole thing with Connor?
That day, the day that we just watched, that was the last straw for him, because he's constantly, like, he knows where his bread is buttered. Like, he doesn't want to go work for his dad. He's like, I stand to lose if I work with you. Like, if I just stay over here and keep my mouth shut, I'm gonna get my oodles of cash.
Right.
But the potentially losing Willa, and in one of his most kind of vulnerable moments, his family, his siblings, can't even focus on him. Like, they're focused on all this other stuff. And I think that's the moment where he is just like, look, I would love to have this, but I don't need it. Like, I've learned how to operate without it. And if Will is gone, she's gone. If she's not gone and she doesn't love me, you know what? That's okay too. Like, I'll learn to get by. You all can't. And yeah, I mean, Alan Ruck, he's such an easy character to make fun of.
Yeah.
But he's so authentic in that moment. And you can tell, because even though he's the eldest, like, he is the most picked on, you can tell these are things that he's had in his head forever. And this is finally the moment, because he's just so emotionally devastated with Willa and the potential of not getting all this money if his siblings screw it up. Like, he finally is just like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. Here's what I think.
Yeah. And also, like, there's something driving Connor as well, because without the money, there goes Willa and there goes the presidency. So, like, what will happen here? And we see the trailer for next episode where he says to her flat out, Willa, do you just love me for my money? Is that what this is all about? Which, of course, we all kind of suspect. And wouldn't it be the greatest irony that she stays with him if he does lose out on the money, if the deal goes to shit, if they all end up broken, whatever, like, or not broke, but if they all end up in a lesser situation, will she stay with him or not? So it's going to be that's been a low key storyline through the first 3 seasons and 2 episodes here. But like, to see it come a little bit to the central part of an episode, next episode, which is what it feels like. I'm going to be very curious to see how that plays out with Willa and Connor for sure, because I've had to come around on Willa And now I'm like, all right, let's see where we're going to go. But her being there in the bed, even though he was tracking her phone and all, which I thought was hilarious, but her being there in the bed is essentially her saying, like, this is my home. This is where I come to, and them cuddling up and whatever. It just, they have a very, I would say, fucked up, interesting situation, but they kind of understand each other. So it's so interesting, right? But none of these kids are going to have normal, mentally healthy relationships with anybody. And the fact that Connor, of all people, the one who says he doesn't need love, is the one that might have actually found love, is one of the most ironic things ever.
Yeah, Alan Ruck he did a really, really great job. I mean, again, along with the Kerry tape, I mean, him tracking Willa's phone, that was a really fun comic runner.
Yeah.
The moment was like, oh, she's in the river. Like, well, no, she's on the bridge. She's on the bridge.
One last thing. What do we think is going to happen with Matsson and Matsson calling Kendall and Matsson put on? And do you think Logan's right that Matsson, that he understands this deal better than those kids do? Do you think he's right, or do you think that there's an impulse here to want to believe in the fictional nature of fighting the good fight of Kendall and all of them? Are our expectations, are we going to get shattered into pieces that Logan was right about the deal after all?
I think Logan is absolutely right.
Damn.
I think it is going to fall apart.
Yeah. By the way, Skarsgård doing a great job as well. I mean, he's an intimidating guy, man. When he's like, people say I'm being direct and aggressive. It's not just being straightforward. I'm not trying to be aggressive. I'm just like, oh my God, that's scary. Yeah, a person who doesn't understand how unsettling they are when they're just being straight up with you is just one of the most unsettling things.
Those Skarsgård brothers, they do a good job.
They really do. Anything more to add on this episode that we missed, Shannon? Anything you want to hit on?
No, man. I mean, it was just, again, it was just another really, really good one. And the closer we get to that finale, the sadder I get.
Yeah,
but I love the fact that they're trying to go out on top.
Yeah. I am absolutely suffering some legitimate Succession withdrawal when this thing goes, for sure. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for episode 2 here of Succession Rehearsal. Certainly rehearsing for a lot of things that are going to be coming here in the next few episodes, especially next episode for sure. We're going to have some fun breaking it all down. We will be here every week breaking it down here on the Outlaw Nation. Thank you to Lord Shannon McClung. Where can they find you, your lordship?
You can follow me on social media. Oh man, maybe I should change it to @Lord Shannon McClung.
You should absolutely change it to @Lord.
You can follow me on Twitter @Shannon_McClung and on Instagram @Shannon the Geek Buddy. And you can see me every week with Mr. Roga and the absent Mr. Vogel with our regular show for the Geek Buddy, and also with our reviews of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, which we'll be continuing this week for sure. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review episode of Succession here on the Outlaw Nation. Peace, y'all.